50 years ago, NBC aired the first episode of the second season of the original Star Trek, called simply Amok Time. These are my honest thoughts about it. This episode was filmed as the fifth episode of the second season of the original series, but the producers decided to air it as the season opening. And I think they have done a fantastic decision. This episode shows us all you need to know about the rest of the season. It shows us that Kirk is the captain, McCoy is the doctor, Spock is not fully human, they are all friends, and it even shows us that Nurse Chapel is still secretly in love with Spock. Unfortunately, the new character, Pavel Andreevich Chekhov, doesn't have his proper introduction, but he does get it in the episode Cat's Paw, which was filmed as the first one. So how does this important episode start? With Captain Kirk climbing up a ladder. Wow. This shot opens a lot of questions. Why is this in the episode? I mean, where has Kirk been? He usually moves between decks using the turbolift. Has he been somewhere where the turbolift couldn't bring him? If so, what was he doing? The captain's job is to be on the bridge or maybe in the sickbay or something similar, so what does he do in a place where you can get only using a red ladder? Was he doing there something he didn't want the crew to talk about? It continues with an even stranger shot. McCoy comes out of the turbolift, immediately talking to Kirk. Did he know that Kirk will be at this precise moment, at this precise place? And he talks about Spock's private medical problems in the corridor filled with people. Is privacy no longer a thing in the 23rd century? To be honest, I start to think that this opening exists only that they can show us they expanded the set with a red ladder, and the discussion takes place in the corridor only so that they can meet Christine Chapel and witness what will happen to her. This is a very strange directorial choice. Christine brings Spock some plomic soup. She noticed that he hasn't eaten for days, which is one of the symptoms of Spock's medical problems McCoy was talking about. However, when she brings it to Spock, she has to quickly run away and the soup ends up on the wall. And it ends up there for several episodes. Spock requests a short leave on his home planet Vulcan, but the Enterprise has to fly to Altair 6 for some boring political mission, which is not important to the story, so we won't speak about it in the details. When Kirk asks Spock for the reason why he wants to go back to Vulcan, Spock aggressively asks to go to Vulcan. Spock holds a knife behind his back when he talks to Kirk, and at one point Kirk clearly watches in that direction. And this is another one of the strange directorial choices. Kirk watches behind Spock's back, and from that angle he should see the knife in his hands. But he doesn't react in any way. Does this mean that he did not see the knife, even when he was looking directly at it? Or does it mean that he didn't care that his first officer has a knife behind his back? Anyway, the Enterprise flies to Vulcan, but an admiral gives Kirk a direct order to fly back to Altair 6. So they change course. Kirk thinks about it and decides, screw the order, they are going to Vulcan. But when he wants to order it to Mr. Chekhov, he finds out that Spock has actually changed the course to Vulcan for him. When Kirk confronts him, Spock claims he doesn't remember giving such an order. Kirk sends him to a full medical exam, which ends with McCoy confirming that if Spock doesn't get back to Vulcan, he will die in 8 days because of a chemical imbalance in his body. So the decision is made. Yes, we are going to Vulcan. This episode contains a couple of very wonderful and touching moments. The first of them happens when the three main heroes are in the turbolift. Spock explains that he must go to Vulcan to have a Vulcan equivalent of a human wedding and to mate with his wife T'Pring. And he is allowed to bring his best friends to the ritual. He doesn't ask only Kirk, but also McCoy. This is the first time he called somebody a friend, and it's very touching to see him ask both of them. I have deliberately chosen for this video pictures which are not coming from the original version of the episode, but from the remastered edition, because in this episode we see a lot more of Vulcan. The arena is no longer just a set on stage. We now get a few more establishing shots, which I think improve the scene a lot. When they arrive there, we see that Spock is actually belonging to a famous family. The ceremony also features an elderly Vulcan woman named T'Pol, the only person who has declined an offer to be a member of the Federation Council. Everything seems to go according to plan, but in the last moment T'Pring decides she doesn't want to become Spock's wife, but she wants a duel. Spock will have to fight with a different man, and the winner will get her. Everybody expects that the other man will be the Vulcan Stone, but to a surprise to everybody, T'Pring chooses Kirk. Kirk accepts the challenge because he thinks that in his current state Spock would lose with Stone and get seriously injured or maybe even killed, but surprise surprise, he doesn't know that this is a fight to the death. And now the most famous part of the story begins. Kirk and Spock fight. Now, I won't talk about what you see, I'm going to talk about what you hear. The music in the scene is one of the most iconic music bits ever used in the movies or television. It's on par with the Star Wars Imperial March. It is so iconic it has been parodied multiple times. For example, it was used as a national anthem of Decapod 10 on Futurama, or in the Jim Carrey quote-unquote comedy, The Cable Guy. Kirk is of course losing, so McCoy, with T'Pol's permission, ejects him with something which was supposed to help him breathe. They continue the fight, which, if I might add, is pretty brutal for a 60s family-friendly TV show, and Spock continues to win, until he manages to strangle Kirk. And Kirk is dead. McCoy officially confirms his death, and that Spock is now the captain, so they beam back to the Enterprise. Except Spock. He needs to talk to T'Pring and to ask the most important question. Why? Her response is surprisingly absolutely logical. She wants Stone. Stone wants her. So if Kirk would win, he wouldn't want her, so she would stay on Vulcan with Stone. If Spock would win, he would probably not want her anymore because she forced him to kill his captain and friend, which means she would stay on Vulcan with Stone. If Spock would want her, they would mate, but still he would have to return to the Enterprise, which means she would stay on Vulcan with Spock's property and Stone. In any case, by choosing Kirk, she made sure that any outcome of this duel would mean that she would get to live together with Stone. Am I allowed to call her a horrible bitch, or is this sexist? I'm sorry, I'm just not sure anymore what can I say and what not in the current politically correct climate without being offensive to somebody. In the end, we get to watch two more of the wonderful emotional scenes I was talking about. The first one is when Spock goes to say goodbye to T'Pol. She gives him the standard live long and prosper salute, but he says he can't because he killed his captain and his friend. Wonderful. And then one of the most memorable scenes of all Star Trek happens. Spock goes to McCoy, where he sees that Kirk is alive. His reaction is pretty amusing and touching at the same time. This is just perfectly acted in my humble opinion. Even the final "in a pig's eye" comment is wonderful. Don't you just love it? And of course we get informed that T'Pol has officially asked the Enterprise to come to Vulcan, so Kirk won't have any problem with disobeying the orders. What a wonderful episode. The script was written by Fyodor Sturgeon, who was previously written Shore Leave and an unproduced story called The Joy Machine, but it was heavily rewritten by D.C. Fontana. She is not only the Vulcan expert, she is also extremely good in writing her great character moments. There are a few absolutely beautiful moments, and I'm not really sure if we should thank for them to the director or the writers or the actors or all of them, but these moments are great. For the very first time we see the planet Vulcan and also other Vulcans. The story itself can be split into 3 parts. The first one is basically a mystery. We are trying to find out what exactly is going on with Spock. Why is he behaving so strangely? As soon as we find out the reason, the story suddenly changes and we get to explore for a bit. To explore the Vulcan civilization, their belief system, their rituals, their biology, and also the planet itself. When we get learned what we needed to know, and in a visually interesting way, the story changes again and it becomes a wild action episode. The pacing is pretty good. Every time the story feels like it's going to become boring, it changes. Visually it's still beautiful. I love Jerry Finnerman's work. This is also one of the episodes where I think the CGI effects should be watched at least once. I personally love what the visual effects team has done with Vulcan. If you have seen the Starfleet Access version of this episode on the Blu-ray, they even say that they wanted to replace the red sky with some things like mountains and clouds, but it would take way too much time. Anyway, there are some very strange directorial choices. I talked about them before, and if the changes were intentional, I have no clue what the director was trying to say with them. But I still love this episode. It's definitely one of my top 10 episodes. So I personally would give this episode 9 out of 10. It's great, but it could be slightly better. But as always, these were just my opinions. Let me know what do you think down in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and feel free to watch any of the other videos on my channel. You should see some playlists on screen right now. If you are waiting for my video about the final episode of the animated series, it will be up later this weekend. And the 40th anniversary of Star Trek The Next Generation is later this month, so I will probably do videos about TNG episodes too. And of course, Star Trek Discovery starts soon too, so I'm still not sure if I should watch it or not, but in the case I decide to do so, I will surely share my thoughts with you. Until then, thanks a lot for watching, and see you in another video. Bye.